another screen recording because Google Meet can't get the right things for us. I already checked the homework. I'm going to need you guys to make sure you upload a picture. Don't say anything. A picture of your note cards and also of your worksheet so I can see them. All right, so let's start here with homework. You have a math quiz on Monday. You have 2 more lessons that are on your test, but you'll see that they are super familiar to you. Jamestown and Pocahontas. So, and they're not even hard note cards. They're really pretty simple, pretty basic. So let me give you an encouragement. If you will go ahead and get this homework, this right here, done today, or maybe tomorrow morning, send me a picture of it, and I will send you the whole set of note cards so that you can have those to check and start studying for your test. Studying for your test is important, essential. You must do it between now and Monday. Do not wait till Monday to do it. That is unwise. There's just a little bit too much information. So please study for your test. See the study guide. All right, study guide is what we're going to go over next. Yes?
2 things. 1, is this an in-class test?
Yes.
And 2, can I go to the back?
No. You have to hear this right here. You're not gonna be okay with the test if you miss this part. You can go in just a minute. All right, your discussion question is probably no surprise, it's about the debate that we had. Except this time you do not have to argue both sides. You get to choose one side as your argument. Go ahead and look at your study guide. That's one of the pieces of paper you got. All right, so right here on your study guide, you will notice that I wrote out the lessons that are on here because we skipped some, we did some out of order. So I wrote the numbers of the lessons that you need to know the note cards for. But you'll also see those in the spreadsheet. Stop. So you are going to have a discussion question. The discussion question is phrased a little differently than before, so notice how you're asked. Should world history be taught to middle schoolers like you with a special emphasis on Western Europe, the geographical area that most directly formed our modern culture? Should it? You can say yes, or you can say no. Of course, I want you to use that worksheet that we did, but you have to only argue one side. This is how your response needs to look. First of all, you need to have a statement, not just yes or no. You need to have a statement about whichever side you are going to take. Then you are going to have 3 arguments that support you. You will then have 1 counter argument where you project how somebody might disagree with you, and then a conclusion, your own conclusion. A statement that says what position you're taking, 3 arguments that supports it, 1 counter argument, and then your conclusion. That's your structure. So that's a minimum of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. A minimum of 6 sentences. That's how it looks. You are writing this in class. However, you are allowed to have as a prompt a note card to help you with structuring what you are going to say. And listen, I'm going to explain to you what your note card is going to look like. Mm-hmm.
Yes, so the note card.
No. Can I explain it first before you ask questions about it? Okay, you're going to have a note card, and you can see here that I gave you, and I put this on your paper, I gave you an example note card. Your note card is only allowed to have a certain number of words on it. And I will check the note card before the test starts. If you do not do the note card correctly, your note card will be taken away from you and thrown in the trash. It will not remain in your possession. So do the note card correctly, and yes, you can get your parents' help. I've already sent this to them. Yes, Chris?
Can we use yours? Is that the note card right there?
Well, you don't need to use mine. I'm just giving you an example of of it.
Can we use that? It has the right amount of words.
It does have the right amount of words. Yes, Ben, what's your question? I want you to own your own argument, so you need to go back and think through it yourself.
Like numbers or symbols count?
Like the symbol for and?
Yeah. Or like,
Let me just explain what I want you to do, and then you'll see. No pictures. Literally, this is what you need to do. You come up with a simple phrase that says which side you're going to do. And here, I reminded myself that I want to say that people should learn Western Civ first. Western civilization first. And then I have 3 numbered arguments. So no, these numbers are fine. 3 numbered arguments, in which case, in my case, and the arguments can only have 4 words per line. Not when you write it out, just on your note card, only 4 words per line. So I'm just writing 4 words that give me prompts as to what I want to write. So here I wrote, as supporting arguments, Rome is where we got our government, law, and military ideas from. We as in our country, our America. Greece is where we got philosophy, art, and sports from. And I put, for my 3rd argument, we should learn the backdrop of America first before focusing on globalization. And then I have a but. This is my counter argument. But what? My but is Asia. But what about Asia? Like, we got a ton of math, science, art from Asia. It's been formative to our culture. And then I'm going to make my own conclusion, which is that focus on the birthplace of civilization first. Now, I know what these all mean. It's enough to remind me of what I want to write. You're not going to use my exact wording off the worksheet. I want you to own it yourself, get it in your own words, and part of how I'm helping you do that is not letting you write whole sentences for this. You've got to put it in a way that you'll have to rephrase it in your own head. Now I'll take questions. You have a question? So symbols that mean words, you mean? Like symbols to remind you? I'll say yes, but only 4. I mean, like with words. Just only 4 per argument, per point. Another question? Listen.
Wait, so how many lines can you do?
Main idea, argument 1, argument 2, argument 3, counter argument, conclusion. Each one, you got tops 4 words. Definitely, especially if this seems like a lot to you, definitely get your mom or dad to look at it with you. Show them the study guide, or they have the study guide in their email. Any more questions? Mm-hmm.
Well, can that be just like 3 arguments for each? Like, does it have to be?
Don't do 3 for each side. You're only doing one side. Is that what you were asking?
But like, can you like change? Does it just like conclusion have to be a conclusion or just like?
The conclusion is a conclusion to your main idea. So the conclusion will be related. It can be in some ways kind of like a 4th way of saying it, but it's concluding this idea. Don't go on to a completely different. Like, don't conclude with the opposite side. Now I've changed my mind. I convinced myself. Don't do that. Like, just stick with whatever you wanted to say. Yes?
Can I go to that?
You can. All right, so for our prayer today and for this month, we're going to be doing some Black History because it's February, which is Black History Month. And I am going to introduce you to some people that you probably have never heard of and some prayers that we can get from their life. Yes?
Why is February Black History Month?
I do not know why it is. It just is. March is Women's History Month. Maybe we'll have women every month. But we have a woman today because, I don't know, history is interesting on both sides. I like Octavia Albert because she was both a woman and a historian, a great combination. And she was Black. She was a woman who wrote books, wrote history books related to recording the stories of slaves. She herself was born to parents who were both slaves, and she was not, but she was very close to it and collected a lot of stories, and so she wrote about it. A lot of her stories centered around a woman named Aunt Charlotte, and I'll say a lot of her stories in her most important book, The House of Bondage, centered around a woman named Aunt Charlotte, who came to our country and became a slave, and she was not a Christian when she did. She had a typical but a very bad experience where she was beaten on an almost daily basis, overworked severely. She had multiple babies because of a relationship forced on her by the master's son, but none of them survived because she had to work all the time. Even when she was pregnant and needed to take care of babies, she never was able to take care of her children. She would sleep. This was just a place where they would sleep in these boggy, horrible areas, and leeches would latch onto her skin and suck her blood at night. She had a very kind of horrible experience. But when she was there was a woman whose name was Aunt Jane, who started sharing the gospel with her. And this woman would come over, would tell her scripture, would pray, would lead prayer meetings, would share the gospel. And when this happened, at one of these points, Aunt Charlotte became a Christian and became part of this community that really trusted Jesus even in this really difficult situation they were in. So what you see in Aunt Charlotte's story is that these are people who would call the Bible their anchor, and they would call Christ their rock, even when they were in this really difficult place, and they never saw the deliverance of God in terms of being free. They never saw the help of God in terms of getting out of being overworked and hurt. And yet their faith was really anchored in the fact that God was their comfort and their help. And when you hear a lot of times in their songs, you're hearing them sing about heaven or the new heavens and the new earth, because a lot of it is that they were trusting that one day they would actually see the freedom that they knew the Bible promised them. So she even, like, they often were hungry, and she would speak, and Aunt Charlotte would, as a Christian, speak about feasting on Jesus when there was no bread to eat. So when Octavia Albert wrote the story of Aunt Charlotte, she closed the book with the poem it's a hymn that I'm going to read to you for our prayer today. And it was called the Song of Miriam. So this is Miriam from the Bible. And this is right after Octavia Albert had thanked God that the unearthly institution of slavery had been swept away forever in a sea of blood, never to rise again. And I sort of read that as both the blood of the slaves who had suffered and also the Civil War, because she lived in that era just post-Civil War. So I'm going to read to you the hymn that she closed this book with, and then we'll hear how Octavia Albert said that she and people who came from the slave background found their hope in Christ. All right, hold on to that wall, please. All right, here it is. Sound the loud timbrel over Egypt's dark sea. Jehovah has triumphed. His people are free. Sing, for the pride of this tyrant is broken. His chariots, his horsemen, all splendid and brave. How void was their boast, for the Lord hath but spoken, and chariots and horsemen are sunk in the wave. Sound the loud timbrel over Egypt's dark sea. Jehovah has triumphed. His people are free. So I'll say amen to that, because I think that the prayer and the request that God would stop banging the ball. The prayer and the request that God would help people see their freedom is really the hope that these slaves had, and that we ultimately are trusting God for. All right. I'll come back to this another time. But just remember, this is still, I'd like for you to sign up. Let's do the states game without going up because we have so much Australia to do today. Okay, ready? Everybody try to answer this.
Maine,
New York,
Pennsylvania,
West Virginia,
Vermont, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, New Jersey, Connecticut.
All right. I think you guys are going to be good on this quiz. Oh, I didn't even ask you about the, you know what? How have I not been reviewing the capitals? All right. So the capital of West Virginia. Oh, we don't even have, I don't even have that on there. All right. West Virginia is Charleston. Okay. Capital of Maine? Of New York? Albany, New York. Harrisburg. Harrisonburg is somewhere different. Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. What about of Vermont? Montpelier, Vermont. New Hampshire? Concord, New Hampshire. What's the capital of Massachusetts? Boston, Massachusetts. Providence. Everybody say that, please. Providence, Rhode Island. Say the words. Providence, Rhode Island. What about Connecticut? Everybody say Hartford, Connecticut. New Jersey? All right, say it out loud. Trenton, New Jersey. Let's say it with the capital and the state. What's this one? Say it together. Charleston, West Virginia. Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Say it. Your mouth needs to say it. It's going to help you. What about Trenton, New Jersey. Albany, New York. Montpelier, Vermont. What's this one? Concord, New Hampshire. Augusta, Maine. Boston, Massachusetts. Hartford, Connecticut. Everybody say it. Hartford, Connecticut, and Providence, Rhode Island. Right. Okay. You have the sonnet now in front of you. Pull out your sonnet. We're going to just do the first 3 lines. You might want to make a little note to yourself. You can jot there in the margin. Alters, when it alteration, find that the alters is talking about changing. And on the 3rd line, it bends with the remover to remove. That's talking about eraser, like an eraser. With an eraser to erase something. So basically, love doesn't get erased. It doesn't get changed because of those other factors. Yes?
The let me not to marriage is
That's how it actually starts.
So I'll be
No, you don't have to start with that because I just did with what was in our book, and the book didn't start with that. Don't scratch it out. I put it there so that you would know. You can draw a little line through it. You didn't get this one? It looks like this. You might not have gotten it handed out to you. We're not. Do you see how it's written differently? I put it in italics. That's because that's not what. We're starting with love is not love. All right, let's stand up, please, and let's say the first 3 lines here. Stand up, stand up, stand up. We're going to do the first 3 lines of this one. All right, you have made a note to yourself that alters means changes, and remover and removing is talking about erasers. All right, together. Love is not love, which alters when it alteration finds, or bends with the remover to remove. Again, love is not love, which alters when it alteration finds, or bends with the remover to remove. Again, say it all. Love is not love, which alters when it alteration finds, or bends with the remover to remove. All right, say it without looking. Love is not love, which alters when it alteration finds, or bends with a remover to remove. All right, now say it without the possibility of looking. Okay. Love is not love, which alters when it alteration finds, or bends with the remover to remove. Again, love is not love, which alters when it alteration finds, or bends with the remover to remove. One more time. Love is not love, which alters when it alteration finds, or bends with the remover to remove. All right, you can sit down, put that away, put your test guide away. We're going to Australia now, which is why you need your globe. Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm not going to do the answer yet. First, I want you to find Australia on your globe. Find Australia. Can you look on the floor and see? Because I have definitely passed out. Are there globes underfoot over here? All right. Do we need one now? All my globes, there were enough for everybody, and they're all somewhere in this room.
There's one on the table.
I don't even see where you're pointing.
Next to the projector.
Oh, next to the projector. Okay. Who needs it?
I need one. I don't have one.
Somebody has one underfoot. All right. Find Australia. Please don't rip up my globes with poking stuff in them. All right, so you find Australia, and now look at where it is. Look at how close it is to the South Pole. How close is it to India? Oriented. Australia is. Oh, I was going to show you the picture. This might help you with where Australia is. Here's Australia. This is an Australia-centered map. It is south of China in the Asian Pacific Islands.
Usually, when I look at a map, the Atlantic Ocean is centered.
Yes, isn't that interesting to see it
Honestly,
differently?
I like it better like that.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like everything's back.
Yeah, but I think it's cool to see maps in different orientation. If you lived in Australia, this is how your map would always look.
Because there's a lot of islands in the Pacific, so.
And we almost don't even see them on our map.
But there's not many islands in the Atlantic.
It's true. All right, so now looking at Australia on your map, Australia eventually became run or really ruled by Britain. So find England, find Great Britain on your map,
Find the ankle.
and see. Can you find it? It's like it's above Europe. It's over here. And now they went by water. So look at what it would take to get from England, kind of trace the path of how a ship would get from England to Australia. You see that? You'd probably go which direction? What do you think?
West.
Probably you go to the east.
Yeah.
I mean, if you go the other direction, look at how far it is.
You have to go.
Lila, look what would happen if you go the other direction.
You have to go down the Strait to Magellan and go
Well,
to
if you
the
went-
Pacific.
Oh,
It's easier to go.
Yeah, what were you saying?
Oh, you go east. Yeah, that's
Yeah, probably east. Now, what are you looking for? Above Europe?
Where's Europe?
Is Europe right here? And England is an island All right, so now when we first see Willem Janszoon in this lesson, he's actually representing the Dutch. So you found England. Can you find the Dutch? Can you find a Holland?
Really small.
It's a really small. It's the bump. So where England is, it's the bump that bumps up that's really close to Norway, Sweden, and Finland.
Oh, I see it.
Can you find it? It's teeny tiny bump.
Small.
So now think of Willem Janszoon as coming from there, and they come over to do what they did. Now, last thing I want you to go back and look at Australia. When Willem Janszoon first landed in Australia, he didn't think it was a separate continent. He thought it was part of New Guinea. Now, so look at the islands that are above Australia, that are north of Australia. Can you see those islands?
Yeah.
And you'll see more when I show you a closer map. But you see how easy it would be if you just touch the coast of Australia to think it's just another island. and not realize it's really actually enormous. All right, set your globe aside. Let's turn off the lights. The first answer was, of course, Australia. It is both a continent and a country. All right, and I just told you about this guy. So somebody tell me his name. His name, Willem, not William, Willem Janssen. He was exploring this unknown island, and it turned out to be this continent. Yes?
I have a question.
You may. Oh, but first, a picture. When you see the picture of these boats, what does it remind you of? Jamestown. It reminds you of those boats in Jamestown, right? That's because this was from the same time. Because that's why we're reading about Jamestown on Monday. So if you look at this and go, oh, Jamestown, or like kind of the Mayflower, the Susan B. Comet. Yes, of course. They look the same because this was the era that we're talking about. Anybody want to try to pronounce the name of the boat? It's right here. It's Dutch. So it's Dutch. Try to think of a Dutch pronunciation. It's probably more of an oi sound. Probably more like Doifken. Doifken. Something like that. This was the era where the British weren't yet running things, so this is the East India Company. All right, this is a map that was made by Willem Janssen's crew, and it was a very accurate map of the coast of the Cape that they came in on. First known map of any part of Australia, but they didn't think it was a new continent. They thought it was just part of New Guinea. It was, by the way, their village was considered unsuccessful. And just think about this. Unsuccessful because they could not establish trade relations because of how the Aboriginal were so separate from each other. And they could not, look at this language, they could not exploit any resources. That's what they were doing, these big companies that were sending boats. They were trying to exploit resources. They were going in like, what can we take? What can we use? What can we make money off of? Period. There is, even with the trade relations, it's like, how can we make trade relations so we can take their stuff and turn it into money for us? So there's it was just a different mindset about how to go to a country. Not any sense of honoring a culture that's already there and working with the people, but how can we use these people to get stuff from their land? That's very typical of the exploring mindset back in these days. All right, here's William Janssen's visit, his thing. Here's the close-up map. So he's coming from this New Guinea area, and you see there's islands. See all these islands? So many islands. So when he got here, he just got to the top of the Gulf of Carpentaria. Do you see how easy it would be to be like, that's just another island? Oh, there's nothing here. Let's go back. That's how they did it. Yes, Nate. I mean, not Nate. Ben.
Why is it spelled differently?
Well, this is it's, I guess, Dutch.
Yeah,
New Holland, Australian. It's probably Dutch. I don't think it's a French map. I think it's Dutch.
that was Dutch.
Okay, so let's do these 2 note cards, and I've got a video for you. First, who wants to tell me about, Lily, tell me about the Outback.
3 million square miles dry, rocky, 1,142 feet high, called Road.
Yes, exactly. So some version of that is what you did. It's not exactly a desert, I don't think. I'll look that up maybe during the video, whether or not it's a desert. It's not hot all the time there because Australia has the opposite seasons we have.
Yeah. So it's hot there right now.
It's summertime right now. All right, so one of the sections is the Outback. Another section that's really famous here is, Brody, what's it called? The largest coral reef, longest coral reef, green turtles, dolphins, whales, fish. What do they call it? The Great Barrier Reef. The Great Barrier Reef. All right. So take the worksheet, set your cards down for a minute, pick up that worksheet I gave you, and look ahead because the first 3 questions are about the Outback. And you can go back and forth and do all 3 of those in the first 5 minutes, and then you are going to have, it's going to switch to the Great Barrier Reef, and you need to then answer that 4th question.
You have to answer all the questions? Or?
There's 4 questions, and yes, you need to answer. You start by writing down 14 words that you come up with that describe the Outback. All right, and look at question 2 and 3 as well. You can answer 1, 2, and 3 in whenever you come up with it, but do watch the video a little bit so you have something to answer. some of the important things. Okay, but marsupial means, Chris Schroeder? In the pockets. We have lots of examples, which I know you want to see pictures of. Kangaroos. See the kangaroo? What about koalas?
Oh yes, I saw a koala one time.
Or
And he was
wombats. They're really big. Look at, I put a picture next to a kid so you can see what it looks like.
It does look like
Wait,
Chris.
that's
That kid does
adorable.
look like Chris.
It does
Like a hamster.
Yeah, like a
It's
giant
like a
hamster.
giant hamster. It's a giant exactly.
A wallaby.
Which is just smaller kangaroo.
It looks like a kangaroo.
Yeah, that just they look like.
Wait,
The one in Pets looks like.
I didn't know koalas had
a mouse.
Bandicoot. Full grown bandicoot. Not a baby. This is a full grown one.
They're not as
The babies are even tinier than
He
that.
looks slimy.
And I know you wanted to see the.
Wait, can you like
What's that? I can't hear what you're saying.
Can you go up to this so I can pet them?
Oh.
Oh.
No? I'm gonna go with no. I wouldn't pet it.
It's like my dog. They're a lot more vicious.
All right, the first Australian inhabitants, they were called
Aborigines.
the Aborigines, the Australian Aborigines. You're going to see a lot of native dress, a lot of painted faces and bodies. The Aboriginal people didn't normally war with people. Anna, why not?
Because they thought that their territories were like designated by the Dreamtime spirit.
Yeah. And it's almost like if you said, well, God has sort of given us all our boundaries. We'll all just live peacefully. That's how they saw it, as the Dreamtime spirits had set out their territories. They all stayed in their own spaces. Yes,
It's
Blythe.
just bad.
All right, what do they eat, Blythe?
Fruits, vegetables, grains, meats, and bees, moss, and
Yes, there's some pictures right there, along with some more cool pictures of Aboriginal dancing. Speaking of dancing, here's a real picture from the past, but not, of course, the 1600 past. What was the festival called? Who wants to give it a try, Lily? Corroboree. Yes. And what percent today of inhabitants, Audrey, are Aboriginal? 2-3%. Back when we are talking about what percent were Aboriginal? 100%. And now it's down to 2 to 3%.
More.
They finally received the right to vote in, Micah?
1967.
That is correct, 1967. But guys, I want to tell you something else. Here's your bonus content. Australia has suffered, like Britain, like America, from the effects of slavery. In fact, the interesting thing about slavery is that when it ended in Great Britain, when it was outlawed in the 1830s, it moved to Australia, which was British. The British people let the Australia have slavery specifically because it got displaced out of British territory. And then after the American Civil War, even more of it moved to Australia. What kind of slaves did they have? Well, pearl diving. Okay, dive and go get those pearls without any oxygen, without any masks or anything, just go get the pearls. Or cotton, like the South in America had a lot of cotton. Or sheep and cattle, or really one of the most brutal ones, sugar plantations. Sugar was really a bloody, slave-driven industry. There were laws in the 1800s that said Aboriginal children, your age, could work 16 hours a day. And in fact, there was a certain kind of recruiting where boats would go into these towns and would talk about all the awesome job opportunities, and then they would dock, and at night they would come in dressed in black clothes and steal people and take them as slaves. They were just scouting out their options of who they could steal and sell as a slave. Slavery was actually outlawed in Australia in 1901, but at that point, there's a lot of things that went wrong, including the fact that a lot of Aboriginals weren't allowed to work anymore, or Aboriginals were oftentimes in the 1920s paid 3% of what white people were paid for the same work. So think of it like this. If you would be paid $100 for a job, an Aboriginal person your age would make $3. So the government made laws to try to equalize it, and the laws never said that Aboriginal people had to be paid the same. The law said they had to be paid 66% of what white people got. And that was never reached. Even with those laws, Aboriginals by 1950 were only making 30% of what white people made for the exact same jobs.
Like working at Chick-fil-A?
There's probably not Chick-fil-A in Australia in 1950, but working at some, like, a labor job. The government itself paid money to the plantation owners when it outlawed slavery because of their loss of property. So even the government saw these slaves as property. And the slaves didn't get, the Aboriginals didn't even get the right to vote until the 1967, probably not too long before your parents were born. All right, so that's the interesting thing about slavery in Australia. Very similar to how it worked out in our country. And now it's time for games. Can you turn the light on, please? First, I want a guy volunteer.
Me, Brody.
All right, Chris Schroeder. Here is your spear. A lot of the games for the Australian kids, there you go. A lot of the, come stand out here a little bit. Games were designed to prepare them for war and to prepare them for stuff. So go stand back there. I'm going to roll the ball across the floor. I want you to throw your spear at the ball and try to hit it. All right, get back to the spear. Let's try one more time.
Can I try?
Oh, no, no. I'm going to have a girl game in just a minute. All right, ready?
That's so sexy.
Okay. All right, Chris, sit down. I need a girl volunteer. A girl volunteer. Who wanted to be it? No. I think Ava, you be the girl volunteer. All right, Ava, there you are. And here is your spear. And then I need some other girls, of which you can participate. And I thought I had another one. Let me see if I have another. All right, ladies, get up here, please. Y'all see another Lincoln log anywhere? Come on, stand up, girls who have those spears. Ava, get over here close to your baby. Oh, here's one. Here you go, Anna. Come join.
I didn't know I was a mom.
You're the mother. Oh yeah, this is a game designed to help you learn how to protect. All right, now turn around. You're protecting your baby from these other people, and they are going to step behind it. Behind it. Now you're going to protect it with your spear. They're going to take turns throwing their spear at your baby, and you try to knock the spear away. All right, go ahead, Lila, with that. Okay, protect it. All right, wait, hold on. Here comes another attacker. Oh, your poor baby. All right. Wait, turn around. They're throwing it. Do you want to throw it, Megan? You want to throw it?
I'm holding the baby now.
All right. So that was a game designed to help them protect. Now, everybody in the middle of the room, please. In the last game is a kangaroo keep away. Boys against girls, but you want to spread out.
Yes.
I want there to be 2 globes for balls. This is a kangaroo, so you have to jump up to throw the ball and jump up to receive the ball. Jump up to throw, jump up to receive. It's not tips, it's kangaroo keep away. You jump up and throw it. The other person has to jump up and receive it, or it switches to the other team. No. Let's give one to the girls, one to the boys. All right, go ahead. Go ahead. You're throwing to girls. They're throwing to boys. If anybody messes up, or if you catch it or tip it off, then you can pick it up.
Why are all the girls like close?
Yeah, spread out. This is just a keep away. It's throwing. It's keep away. All right, go ahead. I'm going to turn on some Australian music while you do it. Aboriginal music. Throw to girls. Throw to your own team. Jump up to throw and receive.
Can we intercept them?
Yes.
Do we have
I seriously think I watched this exactly.
Jump up, jump up, jump up.
We're only using one at a time.
No, do two at a time. It makes it more interesting. Jump up, jump. Kangaroo. You lose it if you don't jump. Catch it.
I failed. Hey guys, did you know I can't catch?
This is really hard to catch too because it's so soft.
Yeah, I'm.
No. Oh, they got it. All right, girls. Just pick up another one if you need to. If you lost yours.
There's 3 balls.
Ava. You have to kangaroo hop. Don't stand flat on your feet.
You should only have 1.
Here. Hey, don't do it at me, Ben!
We have 2 minutes. It's only like 2 at a time. Hey, yo, Ben, get it.
This is madness. Ow.
And what is the table?
Ben, Wesley. No.
Yeah,
I
one
don't do
ball.
something. I'm
Alright, it's 9:55. Put your balls in here if you have them in your hands.
Matt. Is it over? Can I come out now? Yeah. I'm about it. Matt, they don't like me.
Alright, be catching.
That was actually, yeah.
Get your
Someone left the pencil pouch. That's what it sounds like when you have a pencil when you're when you're brushing your teeth with an electric.